Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
Welcome to Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu, episode 89. It has been practically a month or two since we've had a new episode, and that is because, one, we had issues with people going on vacation. We had schedules of stuff just getting hectic. We had to take time off just to get ready to do San Diego Comic-Con news coverage. And then just after that, more stuff just kept piling up. It was just like the entire month of July into the first week of August or so was just crap storm central. It was like a hurricane of news. It was a hurricane of, hey, you gotta do this. Hey, you gotta do that. Oh, your car broke. Oh, hey, we gotta go to a wedding. Stuff like that.
Oh, hey, your best friend was murdered and you have to revive them to the Necronomicon.
Yes. No. Stop.
Yeah.
No. Get out of here. We're not doing any Bruce Campbell stuff this week. At least this week. Maybe next week.
We're still waiting for that Evil Dead announcement from Mortal Kombat. That would be a good week to do it.
No, it's not happening. Anyways, I am one of your hosts and co-creators of the show, Wheelchair 21, and joining me is technically the pivotal number 2 of the show, even though he was technically the alleged fourth host in order of...
Without me, the show would be nothing.
Well, technically, it was without a Michael, the show would be nothing. If we don't have a Michael, there is no show. So, as long as there's a Michael, we have a show. And that is Sound Out 12.
I'm still unemployed and therefore more consistent.
Yes, Sound Out 12.
I exist. I'm here.
Yes.
I'm somewhat alive in some manner of fashion.
And joining us to complete at least the usual, on occasional, nice round table of 3 is the Visible Ninja.
I am very round.
Yes, he is very round. The table is round. Alright, so since we've been away, we thought the best way to do this is not essentially go too in-depth with all the news that has built up since we've been gone, but we will pretty much try to address it as best we can, give you guys our opinions on it, so on and so forth. So for the rundown of our episode, we're going to briefly take a small look at Rider Zero-One, the press conference, the cast reveal, and the trailer. We're not going to go too in-depth on that. Next, we're going to talk about the Lightning Collection reveals that occurred not just at San Diego Comic-Con, but post San Diego Comic-Con due to websites accidentally uploading actual figures that are coming out in the near future. We also have a plethora of S.H.Figuarts releases. We have 2 new Ultraman productions currently in the work. And then we're going to be talking about really interesting home video collections restoring old Tokusatsu films and television shows for Blu-ray for North American distribution, which will segue into our main discussion, which is the various home video releases, at least in North America, for, say, the Godzilla franchise, the Gamera franchise, I guess you would say Power Rangers, Super Sentai, like everything up to now. We're only going to go as far as back as like 1985, just to be safe, because most VHSs did come out late 70s, early 80s, but a lot of those are a lot harder to get because of, I guess you would say, annual repurposing and reissuing. Like, I guess, right, Sound Out, because like some videos, they won't change the box art, they just change the copyright date when they would just renew a release for some videos, if I recall. But
that's correct. Some of them would be just simple date changes, but others can be more complicated.
Yeah, so like that. That's what we're going to be talking about for our main discussion. So let's just go right into the Kamen Rider Zero-One news. This actually broke, I want to say, July 17th. This was like really close to San Diego Comic-Con. So everyone's probably heard the reactions to almost every other podcast by now. So we're not going to go too crazy in depth. The story is practically that a Tony Stark-esque character in the sense where like at least the guy creates artificial intelligence, he's creating all these AIs. However, they kind of go rogue and kill him. But this is the plot twist of the whole Tony Stark syndrome, is like, he wills his company and his ability to be a Kamen Rider to his grandson, who wants to be a comedian, who then wants to right the wrongs of the weird corrupt virus or the hackers screwing up his grandfather's legacy and company. And that's practically a good gist of, like, your story. We're not going to go too in-depth outside of the fact that we have Kamen Rider Zero-One. Arturo Hiden, like we said, is our protagonist. He'll become the CEO of the Hidden Intelligence Company. And he is actually, just wanting to be a comedian. We also have the group called AIMS. They are actually the rider organization that has been established by the government to help stop these actual corrupt instances where AIs and robots are running amok, which will feature Kamen Rider Vulcan and Kamen Rider Valkyrie. Interestingly enough, Valkyrie is a lead female rider. So for our first 3 riders, there's a female in there. And then we have like a hacker organization that right now, the current English translation does vary from destructionlightning.net to deathlightning.net. So I'm guessing eventually it's going to stay more of a romanization of the actual Japanese name for most Western fans, because the name is so varied by how easily the word can be destruction, death, and so on and so forth. The series is going to be airing actually on September 1st, so by the time this episode airs, we're going to be about a week or 2 out from the actual premiere at 9 a.m. Alright, so I'm going to go over to Visible Ninja first for his opinions on Zero-One, and then we're going to go over to Sound Out.
Ho-ho! Zero-One sure is an interesting concept for our first Reiwa writer. I mean, he's a shitty Japanese comedian who is basically handed this big-ass, multinational corporation that he kind of doesn't want anything to do with, and he gets, tied up in a SHIELD-esque organization. I'm not sure what AIMS is supposed to be. That's kind of what they seem like, but hey, whatever. We're getting 3 writers, it seems, from the get-go, and one of them is a woman. So that's kind of interesting.
She's ramen?
Although, this being writer, she'll be dead by episode 8. I know, morbid, but no, she'll probably stick around longer than that, and maybe even survive the whole series. I mean, new things could happen. I mean, well, technically you could say Poppy and Nico survived.
Well, both of them died at least once and came back.
Well, yeah, it's like one of those...
Just like everyone in X-Aid.
There's like an asterisk there for Poppy and Nico, but... And the antagonists being a hacking group is interesting, its confusing name aside, so... And not to mention, Zero-One's design is a Bugman. I mean, that's one common criticism of the Heisei era of Kamen Rider, of that they didn't look like Kamen Riders. They, at best, looked like metal heroes, and at worst, looked like some kind of Ishinomori fever dream. But, hey, he does look like a Bugman, a very stylized, funky-looking Bugman, but still a Bugman nonetheless. And who knows where the forms in Insanity will go from here. So I'm actually really looking forward to Zero-One. Even as somebody who has been enjoying Geo, I mean, it's a fan-wanky fan service anniversary season. I'm not expecting too much out of it, but still enjoying it. But I am definitely looking forward to Zero-One.
You know, guys, the best part about this show is the fact that the 2017 live-action Ghost in the Shell not being a total box office hit did not derail the Bubblegum Crisis live-action adaptation that we were all looking for, and I'm really happy to see that it surfaced. I don't know what this Kamen Rider thing is that they keep talking about, but, seeing a representation of the futuristic society where technology has become overrun, including a redemption storyline for a CEO that wants to do better against the company that their father previously owned and used for evil, is a very, very good take on the Bubblegum Crisis mythos. In fact, I would not be surprised if the Night Sabers, which for some reason are male in this series, end up being a larger group, as they just start with just one to begin with, but it should expand. But the fact that we have AD police that now get to wear armor is pretty awesome, because it always seemed like the AD police themselves were really capable, but never had the proper equipment to deal with all of the rogue boomers in the city. So this is definitely cool to see that, we've got 2 AD police officers wielding wonderfully designed magnums that have great storage as a belt system. It's pretty cool overall. And I do like how, of course, the Night Saber armor is now portable and can only be accessed using a belt and another device, as opposed to having to get to a mobile carrier to get that armor on. And the hacking group causing, machines and other Voomers to go crazy kind of makes more sense in the grand scheme of things as being a group, as opposed to just a singular person who's just like, oh, I'm going to kill everything using the power of these robots that people rely too much on. So it's very cool. And I did see that they took some cues from Ghost in the Shell by having enhanced humans that use more technology to make their lives easier. So Bubblegum Crisis has finally come back to us, and it's looking better than it ever has.
Yeah, with that satirical take on the explanation of just reading the bio.
Oh, I'm absolutely serious.
Yeah, well, no, it's more satirical because we all know of how it just looks too close to be what it is. Because even I said to Sound Out, when I was writing our press release, our translation of the news as it came out, I was saying to myself, why is this almost every ADV Films release ever since they were really into the cyberpunk futuristic world dubbing scenario back in the early days of their company before they did become bankrupt and had to rebrand themselves for like 2 or 3 times? Like, it just felt like that because you see the Ghost in the Shell, you see Bubblegum Crisis. There's a few more analogies in this show right then and there. And they really did try to go with a very Marvel-esque kind of vibe, even by the way that their little Kamen Rider logo comes up on the actual screen. It does like the actual Marvel Studios logo kind of thing. And it's kind of funny that they went that way with like trying to encapsulate, I think, all of Kamen Rider at that point. So, I mean, I like the narrative that they're trying to set up for this world. I'm just not liking the way they're setting up at least our main protagonist. I think one of the biggest problems that I have with Rider is now that they're at least going back to having your main Rider be a bug man. The problem I have is there's a weird disconnect if you watch some of the action scenes of our main character in the trailer. He's a very stoic, seems very, I wouldn't say, he's not like head up his own ass, but he seems like he's very confident in fighting. But then when we know he's supposed to be a comedian, it's like, does he have a split personality disorder? Is it going to be something like, you know, when Shinosuke in Drive gets in Top Gear, he's actually like, I'm a badass, I can do this kind of detective, rather than being like a very mundane, down-to-earth, mellowed-out dude? Like, is that
Also,
what
like
they're going to try to
Agito?
do? Yeah, like, that's what like, are they going to try to do an Agito there? Because, like, when you look at his actor, he seems even more cowardly, or, I guess you would say, not masculine, but he seems very thinner, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just seems like that, like, type of Japanese idol that the women love, where they, you know, obviously put the guys wearing a lot of baggy clothes to hide either if they actually are very, you know, badass, ripped dudes that probably could handle themselves, you know?
Like Gaim.
Because, yeah, they've done it with Gaim. They did it with the Koiuchi guys until later episodes when Koichi was like, show off them abs. So what I'm saying is the guy just being told to play a loser? Or is it just that it's like a change of personalities? Or are we gonna find out that the action scenes that we saw are supposed to be his grandfather or his actual father before the mantle was passed to him? It's like, what's going on? But I feel like it's a good step, at least right now, with what we've gotten. We just have, like, questions that we hope are answered and that the direction ends up flowing a lot better than what we've gotten in the recent years. Because it's either been good, bad, or just terrible. It's one
And
of those
think about
things.
it this way. If this is the new direction of Kamen Rider, I can't wait till 2021, fall 2020, when we get Kamen Rider Akira.
Stop that. Just stop that. We're not getting a third Impact or
getting-
a fourth Impact or World War III.
Look, maybe Kamen Rider Kikai was just a blatant cash-in ripoff, but what if they just do it anyways?
They're gonna rip off a lot of things, I feel like, now. They're like, let's
I
put
feel like
Bugman to rip off
like,
everything that works.
I think Heisei Phase 2 was very much ripping off a lot of anime tropes, but like specifically like shonen anime or like some other action anime. But now I'm really in the camp of, oh yeah, no, they're gonna go like full cyberpunk here on out, which honestly, cyberpunk's not a bad place for Rider to be in. I think it fits better than the more shonen-y anime stuff that we've gotten lately.
Yeah, I can see how that could work. So, overall, it's gonna air shortly, and most of us are looking forward to it. So let's move on to our next segment, which we're gonna be looking at a lot of the new Power Rangers Lightning Collection reveals. Because, while it wasn't a whole lot of figures, there are quite a few good releases where you're like, you're getting a good bang for your buck kind of scenario. First off, we have, actually, the first thing they showed off was the fan channel recently released Lightning Collection Fighting Spirit Green Ranger and Putty Patroller 2-pack. The interesting thing about this 2-pack is, while it is, yes, Fighting Spirit from the Dino Thunder episode, Green Ranger Dragon Helmet with the silver stripe, and the actual accurate Morpher and Dragon Dagger belt strap being white rather than black like it was in Jew Ranger.
And
We
it
also
being
have-
on the right-hand side instead of the left-hand side,
Yeah.
which I just noticed when I got the figure.
Yeah, which is also interesting due to the fact that supposedly the Putty Patroller in the set is not actually based on the actual accurate season 1, like, Jew Ranger first scene suit. It's actually a hybrid of the later suits and the super suits merged together. So it's like a mixed bag where that means, obviously, when we get other future Putty Patrollers based on the other various designs, just in Season 1 alone, they're probably going to change the positioning of the stripes, the shades of the actual suit to being not instead of a very light gray to a more darker gray, changing the face masks, and eventually it'll get darker and change up even more when they make your obvious Z Putties for Season 2. That was the first thing, and like I said, it's already out at most retailers. It's a fan channel one.
I think it's mostly just GameStop got it, yeah.
Yeah, GameStop, Hasbro Pulse, Big Bad Toy Store, and Entertainment Earth. The next thing we now know is also the Wave 2 collection was confirmed, not just through Amazon's leaked listings earlier this year. We now know for sure that it's going to be the Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, which features Kimberly's head, the Beast Morphers Red Ranger, obviously featuring his human head, Beast Morphers Gold featuring Nate's head, and the Lost Galaxy Magna Defender. However, in Wave 2, they also revealed that we are going to get the premium Ranger helmet collections for the Lightning collection, which is supposed to be like a 1-to-1 scale prop replica, similar to like the Iron Man helmets we've been getting for the Marvel Legends line. The first one in it is going to be the White Ranger helmet from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for $79.99. And then shortly after, revealed through, Best Buy, we found out that they're going to do to the 10th Power Red 2-pack, where we're going to actually get Lost Galaxy's Red Ranger, Leo Corbett, with actually the Psycho Red Ranger. And that is actually going to possibly be an item that we know more details for around possibly New York Comic Con, or even so it might be released even sooner than that, since Best Buy did obviously screw up and then quickly remove the listing. So
we might find out at
Fan
Expo Canada, which is coming up very
shortly.
Yeah,
that could happen as well. Also on top of that, we did get more clarity that we're also going to get a single pack release of Psycho Blue 2 shortly around the time that this, I guess you'd say, to the 10th powered Leo versus Psycho Red figure will be released. And that's all we have as for Lightning collections out of SDCC and moving forward to now at this time. I'm going to go back to actually Visible Ninja for his thoughts since, he's the tertiary member of this crew, so he goes first.
Thanks. As for Wave 2, no real big surprises. We kind of saw a lot of them coming. I mean, you got another MMPR in there. Kind of makes sense. Same thing, Beast Morphers Red. We kind of saw him way before. Around the same time as the first wave stuff, I think. But again, no surprise. Magna Defender, awesome sauce. Beast Morphers Gold, a little bit more of a surprise, but again, not terribly surprising. It's the other stuff where the interesting stuff lies. The Fighting Spirit Tommy and Putty is probably one of the best ideas they had, because not only do you get, a Tommy with a Putty, I mean, it's kind of basic, but they went the route of not just giving us normal MMPR green, they gave us the Fighting Spirit version, which is actually accurate to how that version of the costume is, and I guess you could say it's different enough from just baseline Tommy that most people were kind of cool with it. So, and of course there's the Putty, like Wheelz said, there's a lot of room to retool it into the various other varieties of Putty, and the set itself looks pretty damn cool. But yeah, the 10th Power set kind of took us by surprise, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, Lost Galaxy Red, he looks pretty cool, but yeah, Psycho Red, oh god, that's just amazing. Plus he comes with lightning finger effect parts, or I don't know the best way to put it, but yeah, lightning effect parts, which is cool. And then Psycho Blue, another one which kind of took us out of left field, which again is kind of awesome that Hasbro is cranking out the Psychos pretty early in the Lightning Collection's lifespan, which is probably good because they're a very well-loved villain group. They're very in demand. Bandai never got around to finishing all the Psychos, and I guess Hasbro's wanting to start cranking these bad boys out in a pretty timely fashion. So, yeah, Lightning Collection is shaping up to be pretty dang solid. Not to mention the fact that Goldars are apparently starting to hit GameStops now. So, yeah, everything's looking pretty damn good for Hasbro.
Okay, so while I'm sitting here posing my Fighting Spirit Green Ranger and Putty that literally got revealed like 2 to 3 weeks ago and I already have it in hand, this is honestly Bandai showings for Legacy was always like a lot of disappointment. It was like a lot of good ideas with a lot of poor execution. For example, like, oh hey, collector's line, but it's so MMPR heavy after years of MMPR that people don't really want to support it. And we're finishing teams instantly, which means some people that are like, oh, I just wanted the main 3 Ninja Storm Rangers are already out of the line in Wave 1 and therefore don't have a reason to stick around. Whereas with Hasbro, they're like, let's give you a lot of variety. But it does also feel like a few of these announcements are kind of giant slaps to the face of Bandai, as well as being giant confident builders for the fandom. Because, for example, the Fighting Spirit Green Ranger is probably the most accurate Fighting Spirit Green we've ever gotten, despite Bandai having done several versions of it. And the fact that they're also saying, look, we're doing a variant of Tommy first because we know you guys have already bought standard green Tommy 2 to 3 times now between Figuarts in Japan, between Legacy Collection and other lines involved with Power Rangers. They figure a lot of people have a standard Mighty Morphin Green. It also works out because they can sell regular Mighty Morphin Green later for those that do want to get that version as well. But it's like, here's a variant of Mighty Morphin Green, and here's a putty for the first time in a collector's line, which is really awesome because that kind of gives us, another bad guy, but it's also something that's very obviously going to be redone in a later version, probably something that's easier to army build, like a single pack figure. So that's pretty cool overall. The other thing is I noticed that the Psychos, it feels like they're slapping the face of Bandai again, but it's also showing to the fandom that, hey, if you didn't buy Psycho Red, Blue, and Black because you wanted to make sure Yellow and Pink got made, or you felt salty that you couldn't get Green or Silver from the Comic-Con, hey, we got you. We're making them. We're doing it. Because, doing Red and Blue just about a year after Bandai did Red and Blue is pretty quick, but it's also like male Psycho Rangers will churn out pretty quickly. I'm kind of hoping the next one we see is Psycho Yellow or Psycho Pink, because those are the ones that were promised to the fans from Bandai and were never delivered upon. So I think that would be a very clever move. Also, I think Psycho Yellow should be next because we currently don't have any Blue and Yellow Rangers in the line, so Psycho Blue and Psycho Yellow being the first Blue and Yellows in the lineup would be pretty cool.
Alright, I'm gonna do the rundown on this. Right away, I'll say this right now. We already did know that we were getting those 4 in Wave 2 per se. But there was no real clarity because there's been times where figure listings were announced to toy sellers, right? Sound out. But then those figures actually came out of order, then actually accidentally listed in actual, I guess you would say stores like, say, Amazon, Walmart listings and whatnot. So we weren't really sure if the 4 we had here with our base Wave 2 was it, Magnet.
And that was also a process of elimination because we got the first 8 listings altogether.
Yeah.
And then from Toy Fair we got 4, and we were like, okay, I guess these other 4 are Wave 2, but there was absolutely no confirmation of that.
There was no confirmation if those were just ones that could have ended up being like limited exclusive variants, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Or could it be just they were already gonna go, oh, these are the next first figures of the next 1 or 2, 3 waves. That, we didn't really know. We kind of just, expected that it could be that case just because of how Hasbro's work with other figure lines where they'll be like, oh, we'll still have listings for them, but they can end up being not even from the same waves altogether or from multi-packs. That we just waited for it. So when we got the confirmation that that's what it was at least a little bit reassuring. But then when they were like, okay, so we're doing a Fighting Spirit 2-pack, I felt like that was, kind of their sort of apology for that last minute, oh, hey, we're making an SDCC exclusive Red Ranger and Gold Ranger 2-pack. I felt like that might have been what their idea was because they were like, oh, here it is at the convention, but it's going to be out in 2 weeks from now, so here, hope this makes up for it since we said we weren't doing a Power Rangers exclusive at first, but then we were like, psych, we're doing one.
Oh yeah, that's true. They did say that. I forgot about that.
Because you were the one who told me that. I was like, but what if they go at last minute and just say, oh, we're going to do a Lightning Collection MMPR figure? You're like, they're not going to be that stupid. They'll do that next year. And then they did it this year, and you're like, God damn it, Wheelz.
That's also just a case in point of how information from Toy Fair does not always translate to final decisions.
Exactly.
Which means all the people that got told at Toy Fair that white costume Emma Frost is off limits from Marvel Legends, that might not hold so much weight anymore.
Yeah, so that's the thing with me is that, I feel like the Fighting Spirits Green Ranger was that one, they wanted to put a Green Ranger out, but they didn't want to give you the real one in a 2-pack. Because, if we give you the real one in the 2-pack, it's going to make it even harder since people are going to want putties. So I guess that's the way they kind of leveled the playing field, per se, right now. And maybe it's because they also want to play around with doing the Dragon Ranger armor, because it might not be the best of the best so far, who knows? We haven't really got one at mass retail yet. This is the first one. The next one's going to be the Walgreens exclusive Black Ranger with Dragon armor outside of, the MMPR Red from Comic-Con. Comic-Con. And then when we got the To the 10th Power box revealed at Best Buy, I was like, that would be a great, like, New York or a future SDCC exclusive rather than just going, hey, we're just going to throw this really nice box set of 2 figures up at Fan Channel. Like, that felt like something you would want for, like, either a holiday season limited event or an actual convention event just by the presentation alone of what it's doing. But
that's true,
like
because usually when we have a pack that's like 2 brand new figures, it's an exclusive to like some convention. But is this just a thing of a vote of confidence from Hasbro saying,
yeah.
hey, we know this will sell well enough, we can afford to do this at shared retail?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, like, we're gonna have a lot of cooler stuff going out there. I really hope, though, that the first 3-pack is actually Power of Pink, where it's just Psycho Pink, In Space Pink, and, say, Lost Galaxy Pink. Like, I would like that as our first 3-pack. I really want that. I mean, I don't want all of the Psycho Rangers, obviously, in multi-packs, but I feel like, in that regards, out of anything, the Psycho Pink, Lost Galaxy, In Space had more merit than, say, Leo versus Psycho Red, where you could have done Andros versus Psycho Red, but I guess they were like, well, since they did cross over, we might as well bite the bullet. That's just me personally. Like, I can go either or with that, but I would like that to be our next actual 3-pack. I really want a Power of Pink, or whatever you want to say, that 3-pack, and I would be good as golden. But honestly, I'm looking forward to what we're gonna see at, like you say, the Canada Expo or at New York Comic-Con, and I'm just really loving the Lightning collection so far. Also, for our fans at Hero Club, check out actually the editorial that I and Sound Out, and technically everyone worked on. Go check it out if you already haven't. Alright, we're gonna move on to our next thing, which is practically all of the S.H.Figuarts, because we've gotten quite a bit, but I narrowed it down since not everything on it is going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like, we had S.H.Figuarts Ultraman Taro show up right before we went on hiatus, and then that foreshadowed the fact that we were getting the newest Ultraman, Ultraman TaJa, where he'll be releasing, I believe, this December, and ironically enough, that'll be around the time his series ends. It's going to be a retail release around 3,500 yen, and it comes with practically no accessories. That's our first release. Our next one is actually the Premium Bandai S.H.Figuarts Ultraman X and Mon's Armor Options set. This actually finishes off all of the cyber armors that X used in his original series. So we have the Eleking, the Bemstar, and the Zeton armor, which I realized I actually put out of order in the gallery, and as well as comes with his Zandium Ray effect, which the original Figuart omitted from the release. That will be coming out actually in, I believe, January 2020, and it's for about $70, so 7,000 yen in Japan. And then we also have information regarding the Shinshoku Seiho Kamen Rider O's Gadakiri Ba form. Gadakiri Ba will not be releasing at retail. I believe all of the other O's forms are most likely all going to be exclusive. There might be a possible exception, maybe, depending on how Bandai sees fit, but we don't know that just yet. Where this will also be a 2020 release, February to be exact, also the same price as the armor, and will feature the O's Change combo gimmick. And then also with Tamashii Nations, like their features, their Tamashii Nations Festival, their fall event where they reveal new products, the exclusives have been announced to be Shinshoku Seiho Kamen Rider D-End for 7,700 yen. We also have Kamen Rider Build Trial form, which is the Rabbit Dragon Gold and Silver form from the finale of the series, which is going to be around 6,000 yen. And then we're having the actual S.H.Figuarts 2-pack of Ultraman Zero, Strong Corona, and Luna Miracle, which is at 12,000 yen. Alright, Visible Ninja, what's your thoughts on all of the Figuarts that I chose to talk about in our little rundown?
Alright, Taiga's looking pretty dang cool. Like you said, he is kind of bare bones. That is par for the course these days for Figuarts. You know, they're making them a little cheaper, but they're also omitting a lot of these, like, effect parts and other options and such. But, you know, Ultraman Taiga does look pretty awesome for what he is. It's kind of weird he comes out, you know, as the series is ending, but hey, it's a lot quicker than some Figuarts, so yeah. It's good to finally see the other Mons armors, though, for X, being, like, more than a year after the original came out, but it's good to finally see them coming out. And I guess as for the Tamashii Nations exclusives, Seiho D-End being an event exclusive, I'm sure there are some people who are pretty pissed about that, but it is D-End. It's to be expected. It is kind of a dick move. But Gold Rabbit, Silver Dragon being exclusive, I kind of saw this one coming. It is kind of a very notable, like, one-time-ish form. So that's definitely event exclusive bait. So I saw that one coming. It does look pretty awesome, and I really do love the look of, Gold Rabbit, Silver Dragon. Too bad it's a Tamashii Nations one, but still looks pretty cool. And of course, Strong Corona and Luna Miracle. Those two forms still look damn sexy. They are expensive since they're pretty much 6,000 yen Figuarts together, but hey, if you're a big fan of Ultraman Zero, particularly of those forms, then, this is one you gotta pick up. Unless you have the, Ultra Act release, but then again, they're not gonna be as articulated or as well proportioned. All around, some damn sexy stuff.
So, a lot of cool stuff popping up. For me, biggest thing is TaJa. We got TaJa ordered. In terms of, X getting his armors, it's fantastic, because there's been a lot of times where Figuarts start a concept or a line of something like that, and then they just never follow through with it. The 0-2 pack looks pretty cool, but being exclusive, and generally I just kind of want base form Ultras, so it's kind of not on my radar, but there's a lot of other cool stuff. I think the biggest thing for me is TaJa, and I really do think that if we don't get Fuma, Titus, and Trey gear in the next year, then the world has really turned upside down, and we need to burn it all.
Alright, I'm gonna jump off of that point there with the fact that we're getting TaJa, great. The fact that we don't have any blast effects or attack effects is rather effing stupid due to the fact that he doesn't even have a weapon accessory in the show, whereas at least with Rosso and Blue, we had the sluggers. But this time around, we have nothing, so it's kind of a giant middle finger. I don't like that mentality, at least with Ultraman. With a rider, sometimes they have weapons, sometimes they don't have weapons. Honestly, riders don't need a weapon. That's what the Showa riders were practically about. And then somehow they got in their mind that Heisei needed nothing but weapons. So it's one of those, catch-22s where an Ultra, it's an Ultraman. All he does is throw beam attacks like he's a Z fighter in Dragon Ball. It's like giving a Dragon Ball Figuart no beam effects. Oh wait, they started doing that, and it's bullshit, okay? It's bullshit. However, the fact that we are actually getting, like Visible Ninja said, practically a year later, the Ultraman Cyber Armors, the Mons Armors for X, is great, because honestly, after they announced the Zero armor for the Ultimate Aegis to be used for Zero as well as X, I was like, I don't think we're ever going to see Ella King. I don't think we're ever going to see Bemstar or Zeton. And they were like, no, we're going to do it, because ironically enough, one of our next stories that we're going to be talking about is going to focus on Ultraman X too. So they might as well, I guess, use that as a waypoint to market the next Ultra series that they're sort of bringing out in fall, even though it's going to be a web series. And then for the Tamashii Nations Festival exclusives, okay, the D-End, I get the Visible Ninja joke of Dick moved D-End because he was a dick to make it an actual show exclusive. But since this has been a figure they were hyping up for a long time as being a possible P-Bandai release, that's kind of a bigger dick move right there. They've been stating for a while it was coming out as P-Bandai, P-Bandai, P-Bandai. But the fact that it's a show release is that when it does get its limited re-release through P-Bandai a couple of months afterwards, it's going to be even more limited than its normal stock and production is, accordingly. Whereas the actual S.H.Figuarts, Ultraman Zero, Strong Corona, and Luna Miracle, this is a weird pack, because if I recall, it was released either once or twice in the actual Ultra Act line, and they were both Premium Bandai exclusives. So to one, omit them as just being regular P-Bandai at that case, and making them an event exclusive is a huge dick move. The fact that the only accessory it comes with is the Zero Lance, and not say some of the other Zero-esque weapons that he gets from his Ultra Bracelet, is also radically infuriating as an Ultraman fan. It's like they were able to make all of the weapons for practically Jack's stuff, except I think his shield. And then with Zero, they're forgetting his shield and one other variation of his, Zero Lance compared to Jack's Ultra Gear. But that's about it. I mean, Tamashii's doing good things to fix, I guess you would say, stuff that they left opened, the end and the armors.
Doing better than they have in the past. This
year
they've been better than they have been in the past. There's still so much missing from Dragon Ball and Star Wars and Rider. And even, there's not as much in Ultra. I think in Ultra they've been pretty good at releasing things that they show.
They've been a lot nicer with Ultra, but I'm just saying in the sense of they started lacking at least on the accessories that they require. Whereas at least with Rider and Ultra, they're at least getting the characters out or going back to finish what they've already kind of hyped up. But the problem is that they're not putting all the effort in to fully deliver to make even the price that they set it at warranted. So let's talk about that crazy instance of the fact of we got a new Ultra production coming out, which is the actual Ultra Galaxy Fight New Generations Heroes. This is going to be a web series directed by Koichi Sakamoto like the previous Ultra Fight series that he's been directing like Ultra Zero Fight and Ultra Fight Victory and Ultra Fight Orb. Interestingly enough, this is going to feature everyone from Ginga to Orb, and it'll serve as like a soft sequel to the Rube movie and a soft prequel to TaJa. And the interesting fact is that we're going to have the first official on-screen debut of Ultra Dark Killer, a villain previously only seen in the Revenge of the Dark Ultraman Taro Pachinko game, as well as being a part of Tsuburai's various, like, stage shows. He'll also somehow create evil doppelgangers of Ultraman X and Ultraman Geed called X Darkness and Geed Darkness. And interestingly enough, when the show does air on YouTube, it will most likely be simulcast not just with English subtitles, but possibly even an English dub, as Koichi Sakamoto stated in the interview, as well as the fact that we're going to get the dark versions as Figuarts for X and Geed. So, Visible Ninja, your thoughts on the actual miniseries?
Oh boy, I really love the sound of this. The fact Koichi's behind it means it'll have some pretty damn good action. It's basically gonna be Ultraman fighting every time, all the time. It's kind of what a lot of people like to boil Tokusatsu down to. You know, I'm just here for the men in suits fighting, and it's kind of that at its purest form. But also the fact that they're bringing Dark Killer there from the Pachinko game and is actually kind of cool, as well as us getting, Darkness versions of Geed and X, because they wouldn't be the first ones we've gotten, but they do look kind of cool, and the fact that it's going to be available internationally with English subs and possibly an English dub, it's just insane, and I just can't wait for this dang thing to get started.
This is very exciting. I definitely think that Tsuburaya is definitely taking the steps for a worldwide expansion of Ultraman, much how Sunrise took the steps for a worldwide expansion of Gundam. And I think that, it's something that's definitely showing how out of touch Toei really is with a lot of the way they do things. And a lot of their old business practices just don't hold up anymore when Tsuburaya is over here giving us an Ultra series spin-off directly. And then there's like news that TaJa is possibly coming over here next year as well. So it's like they're really taking Ultraman to a new level, and I'm really happy that they're taking it global.
Alright, next thing, before we get to the real global proportions of, home video releases, the final Ultraman production that we gotta talk about is the one that started out as more of just passing conversations through interviews and April Fool's Day jokes. The real thing is that Kahara Inc., the animation studio founded by Hideki Anno himself, and, helping him to produce his own, series, The Rebuild of Evangelion movies, had announced that Anno is actually working with Shinji Higuchi to make a new Shin production. Not a Shin Godzilla, but a Shin Ultraman. Yes, these two creative SOBs are coming back together to do a new Ultraman film that's already been put into production and stated to release in 2021. And ironically enough, the first draft of the script was finished actually in February of this year. So, like we said, we have about 2 years till this film comes out, and we actually have some cast members such as Takumi Saito, Masami Nagasawa, and Hideyotoshi Nishijima. Interestingly enough, 2 of these actors have been in previous Godzilla films. One of these actors, his most notable role to Western audiences, has been dubbing over Ryan Reynolds, specifically in Detective Pikachu and in a few other movies that are not Deadpool. So, that's all we know right now, and we just know that once the current Evangelion film is done, Hideki Anno will assume full creative control as, director and writer with Higuchi, because Higuchi right now is just manning it pretty much by himself, and just waiting for Anno to come in and help clean it all up. So, that's how the team's working, and so on and so forth. Visible Ninja, your quick thoughts, at least on this announcement.
Okay, yeah, this announcement kind of did blindside a lot of us, and holy shit, I don't really know what to expect. I'm not expecting a somewhat of a slow burn, realistic, political focused movie like Shin Gojira was. I mean, I still enjoyed it. I still like Shin Godzilla. I like how I bought it on Blu-ray. But I'm not expecting that.
You didn't buy it on day one like I did, though.
No, I didn't. I did not. It took me a little while to pick it up. But either way, I honestly don't know what to expect out of a Shin Ultraman. Is it going to be a somewhat realistic, I guess you could say reboot of, say, the original Ultraman? Is it going to be some kind of, reimagining / kind of very stylized take on it that's not necessarily realistic, but there's so many things it could be and isn't going to be. We just don't know, especially because this thing is a few years out yet, because Anno does need to finish up with Rebuild first. But holy crap, I'm definitely interested to see how this little project takes shape.
For me, with Shin Ultraman, wasn't a huge fan of Shin Godzilla personally. I've only ever watched it like once. It wasn't something that grabbed me. And generally speaking, I'm just not a huge Anno fan. But being Ultraman and being something different, I am interested enough to watch it. So I do look forward to that. I'm kind of hoping that it does take more inspiration from the Ultra series in general. Anno has said that like Evangelion is inspired by Ultraman, like it was one of his inspirations. So I'm kind of hoping for good stuff here. It'd be really nice to have like a cool Ultraman movie that can kind of fit with the Ultra series, but also have its own like independent style. That would be pretty awesome overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say this. With Shin Godzilla, it wasn't, like, I'm hearing a lot of people saying Shin Godzilla isn't a Godzilla movie. It is. It just doesn't approach the natural open world, like, friendliness that the other Godzilla movies have been. Like, even though they were very still centered on Japanese mentality and stuff, they didn't feel like it was just so one-sided that you felt that it was only for the Japanese and just for them and not the rest of the, fan base that eventually was accumulated, or the fact that they just try to make it so narrow that it could only be seen and fully appreciated in its home country of origin. I feel like with Anno, with Ultraman, the fact that we've known for years that he's had a love for it, that it usually is part of his inspiration for the concept of, like, the crazy, anarchistic, spiritual acid trip known as Evangelion does give me hope, because knowing that most of Evangelion is, like, taking Ultraman and turning it on its head as, like, more of an antithesis and a weird take on also human psychology of depression, anxiety, betrayal, and demonic presence of good and evil, it works. You know what I'm saying? Like, it works as, like, an antithesis to Ultraman. So, in that respect of having liked Evangelion but not entirely in love with Evangelion, I see where if he does do a respectable take on Ultraman, it could be actually incredibly stellar. And now to get to the real, worldwide distribution that actually was the core discussions, and we've talked about it sort of before on our show, which was like home video discussions and home video releases for various franchises. So we want to just do that right now, where for the first time ever in North America, Criterion is going to be releasing the Godzilla Showa collection. This means everything from Gojira to Terra Mechagodzilla will finally be released on full-on digitally remastered Blu-ray restoration sets that will feature everything, all 15, no omitting a film. We're gonna have, Godzilla Reads Again, King Kong vs. Godzilla, Mothra vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Invasion of the Astro Monster, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, or Ebirah Horror of the Deep, if you prefer to call it that, Son of Godzilla, Destroy All Monster, Godzilla Reads Again, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Godzilla vs. Gigan, Godzilla vs. Megalon, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and Terror of Mechagodzilla. So there's all 15 movies I just ran down. I know it was a bit of a tongue twister. It's all going to be there in a huge set that's practically almost $200 and something. However, it is sold cheaper at other places like Amazon. And on top of that, Mill Creek announced that they were able to work together with a European company to get a North American distribution rights for the entire Ultra series to be distributed in North America, completely restored in Blu-ray quality, and they'll all be coming out this fall. Yes, we are getting all the Godzilla films from the Showa era, and we are actually getting every single Ultra series in North America. That means Ultra Q2 now on Blu-ray, as well as movies. Yes, suck it. Even though right now, Hasbro has put the release of Sentai on hold. We will address that a little bit later when we get into the home video discussions, but, like we said, Godzilla is going to finally be complete in its original audio practically in North America, and we're getting Ultraman. So, what's our thoughts, at least, on these home video releases before we get into the full depth of distribution in North America? Visible Ninja, I want to hear your thoughts on the Showa collection and the Ultra releases.
Alright, Showa collection is pure sex. All 15 movies, all together in one nice box set, with kick-ass, brand new artwork that they've commissioned from like 15 different artists. And not to mention, getting the Japanese version of Kong vs. Godzilla is supremely awesome. I just can't wait to pick up the set myself. Ultra series, like in its seeming entirety, coming over here is awesome. Yeah, the Ultra Q and the original series are already up in both normal and limited edition steelbooks. And, oh, God, yeah, like, Toei, what you smoking, man? Like, Supro is kicking your ass, man.
So, my basic thoughts on both the Showa collection and the Mill Creek Ultraman Blu-rays is I've already got them all on pre-order. Honestly, October's a heavy month for me in Blu-ray releases of the magical varieties, but nothing's going to stop me from either of these. The Showa collection is absolutely beautiful. It's something I've always wanted. Having the classic media DVD releases of some of the Showa films being missing Son of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla for many years now from my collection, I can finally fill that gap. And getting Kong vs. Godzilla for the first time in Japanese in North America, and it's on a beautiful Blu-ray from Criterion, who know what they're doing when it comes to film transfers. I am over the moon with excitement for this. And then we also have Ultraman, which just throws me all over the sun and the planets beyond it and stops me right in front of Pluto because there's still other things I want. But Ultraman and Ultra Q are both series that have come out before, yes. But these are on Blu-ray now. They have the original audio remastered as opposed to the second generation copies that were on the DVD releases. Picture quality is going to be better because it's the Blu-ray release, similar to the Japanese version. There's no English dub for Ultraman, but I don't care because if it's going to be an authentic release, I want to see it in Japanese. That's just the way I am. That's the way I'll work. I'm cool with it. Also, the fact that the steelbook editions of these releases are like less than $30 a piece right now. That's incredible. The regular editions are cool too. They're like running the $20 gambit. It's really impressive. Like when you look at Ultraman, where it's like, here's a franchise that's been around longer and has like a fan base in North America that's getting good stuff for them now. And then you compare it to like anime, it's like you look at like Ultraman, where the complete series on Blu-ray with a 28-page booklet in a steelbook with, Japanese audio and subtitles is $27. And then you look over here at Funimation, who's released 12 episodes of an anime that aired 2 years ago that has 2 audio tracks and a bonus DVD copy that no one asked for. And it's like $50 for like 12 episodes. And so it's like, it's kind of magical to see Ultraman be at this like really great price point. Same with Garo. Garo was at a really fantastic price point. And the Sentai DVDs were at an alright price point. But it's just really showing that like anime, I think, gets upcharged because it's anime. And that Tokusatsu gets a little bit more leeway when it comes to pricing, at least from companies. And that could just depend on where they're coming from licensing-wise, but it really seems kind of strange when I'm looking at, like, here's, Ultraman on Blu-ray for $27 in a steelbook, and then here's, like, a regular edition Blu-ray from Funimation for, like, 12 episodes and $50. There's a very distinctive separation there, so I don't want to see anyone complain the Ultra Blu-ray releases are too expensive, because I will literally slap them as hard as I can.
I mean, they're cheaper than the actual Sentai releases. And they have about the same episode counts depending on what season you're going to be looking at in the future.
And they're on Blu-ray and not DVD.
Yeah, exactly. So that shows also the Toei mentality versus the Toho Tsuburaya. They know they can make bang for their buck. Toei's like, no, you need to pay us in advance just so if we get burned, we're not burned later.
Even then, like, the Ultraman Blu-rays are cheaper than the Just Beyond SDBD. The Just Beyond SDBD's, standard definition Blu-ray release is more expensive than Ultraman, and Just Beyond's supposed to be one of the cheapest Metal Hero shows to license.
That's just showing Toei's business mindset, though, if you think about it. They think you need to pay us this much in advance and charge that much so we're not burned in the initial, backlash or some bullshit like that.
And that's the thing, too, I think of Toei is, that's, I think, a big difference here, right? When you're looking at the Nozomi Entertainment Gundam releases, which run cheaper than standard anime DVDs and Blu-rays, when you look at those, you're like, wait a second. Sunrise is working hand in hand with Nozomi Entertainment to release these Blu-rays. Sunrise is involved. They're the ones deciding what's being released. They look over everything. They give them the proper quality, and it's the top-notch stuff. It's basically like releasing what was released in Japan. Then you look at, Mill Creek saying, we've got the entire Ultra library. That press release read very similar to the Nozomi press release saying that they got the entire Gundam library. And so it's definitely something where Tsuburaya is not just taking their show and shoving it to an American company for them to figure out. It feels like more that Tsuburaya is actually in control in a way and is working with Mill Creek to produce these, not just throwing stuff at Mill Creek and them having to figure out what they're doing, which just seems to be how Toei license stuff.
Yeah, no, because, honestly, watching the Godzilla Criterion collection, while it's still very expensive for,
It is Criterion.
Yeah, it's Criterion.
Yeah.
They like to upcharge. They're assholes. I'll be honest with you. Criterion are
they
the biggest
upcharge
group of
because
assholes.
they're like, we're limited edition.
Well, yeah, but even then, some of their limited editions aren't actually as limited edition as they make it out to be. I'm going to be honest with you. they've
Yeah,
done this
Criterion is not like the best company for pricing. They are really good at quality. I think a lot of their money goes into like their bonus features because a lot of times a movie from Criterion will come with a booklet that contains like an essay.
Yeah.
But to that point, at the $170 price point that it's at right now on Amazon, and it's 15 films, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm actually about to do the math of 170.
Yeah, that's about $11 a movie, which
Yeah, it's like
isn't
$11
that
a
bad.
movie, which isn't that bad when you think about it that way. But I also think about, like, it could at least be 150, but I don't know. It's like one of those things where, like, Godzilla movies now are, like, so cheap depending on what they are, even if, like, discs are out of print, that I'm like,
This is true, but you also have to look at it from a different perspective. Like, for example, the Sony 2-packs, while they're good, the audio quality is not as strong as it could be. There's no bonus feature stuff. You end up paying a little bit more
Yeah, it's the 60
for the higher quality.
Yeah, it's the 60-40 over-under. It's like one of those, like, which do you prefer? With Ultraman, it's great, it's good. I just need to know when we start getting towards the later era of the Showa era, as well as eventually getting to the Heisei era, how are we going to release the Gaidens? How are we going to release the movies? And so on and so forth. Because if we know that we're actually going to get the movies and they're not going to hold us up in any legal BS this time, like when Sentai and Toei did, I'm going to be super stellar because when we eventually do get to Ultraman TaJa, I really want a Final Odyssey release in North America. I'm a stickler. I want TaJa and Final Odyssey. I could care less about the revival of the Ultraman of Light or whatever, you know, the TaJa Gaiden movie. I could care less about that. But if they're saying we're only going to do the main feature-length films, I'll be okay with it. But then when they start going to later seasons too, with like Ultra Fight Zero, Ultra Fight Victory, will they be maybe bonus releases for some of the shorter seasons, since we'll eventually have, 22 episode seasons, 25 episode seasons, 20 episode seasons, depending on, Ginga S, X, Orb, stuff like that. So I feel like they're gonna have to play around with the rubric and material eventually. So if they're being numbered by the franchise, that means some movies are a part of the entry numbers, whereas other things will be within the entry number itself. So it's like, how will they package it in? It all depends. As well as if Criterion's doing Showa films, other question I want to bring up real fast is, Criterion doesn't usually do 90 stuff or 80 stuff, but does that mean Criterion's already in talks to doing the other films, or are they just going to touch the Showa only? That's the thing that's kind of gotten me.
I think they're Showa only.
Yeah.
Based on everything that company has done over the years,
they're
going to go Showa only. This is their like Godzilla release.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're going to be doing like a Heisei set next. Nor do I think it would be as necessary because of the rights issues, because like Miramax is held by L.I.T hostage.
Yeah, that's true, but that all depends. So anyways, let's actually talk about crazy distribution. And so since the best way to start it is with Godzilla because of home video releases. So me and Visible Ninja probably are better aware of this than you are, Sound Out. We're going to try to keep this...
I've mostly been collecting in the Blu-ray era.
Yeah, the Blu-ray DVD era. So we're going to be, as best as we can explain it, for the next half hour, because we want to try to keep at least our record time at least by 90 minutes. What I did was, I went to the actual Toho Kingdom library, and I went to their actual lists of practically almost every kaiju film that Toho Studios released, as well as some of the actual non-Toho films that were at least still distributed by Toho Studios, at least in theaters and on home video, like through Kawakata. That's why, like, some of the Gamera movies are listed at Toho Kingdom, is because of the Kawakata Toho deal for home movie release, yada yada yada. And I narrowed it down to, the main marquee VHS releases, which were actually 14 different types. You had Paramount, Good Times, Scimitar, Classic Media, Video Treasures, Star Classics, VCI, Columbia TriStar, Anchor Bay, ADV, Orion, New World, Star Maker, and HBO. And out of these 14, I highlighted at least 8 of them in green. These are the ones that were more common throughout the 90s. These are ones that most kids either grew up with, like around our age, because we're, around 30 years old now, so like, we're from that late 80s, 90s era, but most of us saw the 90s releases of these films better. There's actually a fun fact on this chart where I had to put an asterisk next to Megalon, and that's because it's one of the only films in the Godzilla Showa era to ever have the gambit of, like, having 10 North American releases on home video. It's one of the only Godzilla films to have that many releases from different companies. That's how passed around Godzilla vs. Megalon is.
That's just wild. You think Gojira would be the one that got passed around more?
No, Gojira only had 4 home video releases, and that's not counting the reprints of, like, Scimitar Good Times, Classic Media, and Paramount on VHS. Visible Ninja, did you ever have any of the original Godzilla films or Toho classics on home media? Like, did you ever have
I
any
did,
of these
yeah.
releases? Which ones do you recall offhand, and which ones don't you recall having?
Like, I'm just browsing through them right now. I do remember having some of the old ones, like Godzilla vs. Mothra. I remember having those. I still have my old Godzilla vs. Megalon VHS from God knows when, but other stuff, yeah, like, I've either had or rented, like, a good chunk of these, like, even the multiple different versions.
So, what I want to ask, though, is which ones out of the names do you commonly recognize from the box arts and stuff? Like, because, like, for me, I'm going to tell you right now, Good Times is probably one of the most talked about releases for fans that I know of, because a lot of people either have the Good Times Megalon release, they have the Good Times original Godzilla King of the Monsters release, and they have the King Kong release. But then other people have the Anchor Bay releases, which are a co-production with Star Maker. I forgot to note that on the graph for you guys. And the thing is about this is that, like, when you think about how spread out these films are, you can see how, by the time we move on to the DVD era, that the rights got even crazier, because, like, the hardest one on this list is Raids Again and Biollante, because Raids Again was only released once, and it was through Video Treasures, and, you know, Biollante was released through HBO, and that was in 92. They're, like, two of the only films on this list, outside of, I think, Destroy All Monsters, to have one singular release. Sound out.
Yeah,
What's your take?
like one release of a movie after that long is kind of ridiculous. And I do think that, like, a lot of companies will hostage rights to things, and I hate it.
Oh,
It's always the
gosh.
worst.
Like you guys mentioned earlier, Miramax with Biollante is like one of the most annoying ones at the moment for me.
it's because it's just completely unavailable right now.
Yeah.
Like, they
And
made it
the
available, I
out-of-print
think.
copies are absurdly expensive on the aftermarket.
It's funny, with a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays, it seems nobody wants them until they're out of print.
Yeah.
Which is funny,
Exactly.
because the Biollante release was $9. They were like, $9. You can't complain. $9.
Yeah, but then it's
No.
also, like, only available for, like, a couple months. Actually, I bought the DVD on the first release, and I got the Blu-ray on the second release. Like, that's how it ended up working out for me. But it was just, like, it was ridiculous, because, like, you know, I got the DVD copy because I couldn't find the Blu-ray. And then when the Blu-ray came out, I was like, oh, crap, now I gotta buy the Blu-ray. It's like, oh, it's not that much. But then it's like, if I hadn't bought it, like, day one after I perused Amazon checking for, like, the next of the Sony releases, I would have never have known it was being reissued, because it wasn't promoted anywhere. It wasn't advertised. It never popped up in stores for me. So I just was like, oh, I guess this is happening. And then I grabbed it, and I'm glad I did, because there's been no other shot at it since. And that was back in, like, 2014.
One thing I want to address about this is kind of funny, too, is, like, when I'm even looking at this list, I've said the story before on an earlier episode of the podcast, that, like, the Video Treasures release is, like, one of those really weird ones where, like, you know, like, the late 80s, early 90s, where, like, they would have, like, these very cartoony, drawn boxes. There were all these, like, ones that you would always see, like, at your local, like, say, I guess the best way to explain it is, it's like, if you know the defunct store, like, Caldors, like, we had places like that called Ames, Jamesway. Like, they're, like, almost like a Target, per se, or Walmart, but they were like, you know, more district chain stores, you know, regional chain stores. They were, like, very low tier ones that were bought out quickly by Target and put into bankruptcy by Walmart, and et cetera, et cetera. So we would have, like, you know, the typical Walmart $5 bin, and it would always be filled up with, like, you know, those non-copywritten, like, you know, reprints of Looney Tunes and Filmation and all these other, you know, cartoons and old classic movies that you could just find in these, you know, bargain bins. And I remember, like, right around the era of, like, DVDs were becoming a real thing, and there was no classic media release at this time announced for Raids Again, which came, like, 4 years later, because classic media just did the first Godzilla Raids Again. No, I mean, Godzilla, Mothra, and, like, Revenge release, you know, like, the Rodan ones, like, the very early ones in the weird yellow boxes. That, like, when I found the Video Treasures release of Raids Again, I literally jumped into the bargain bin. Like, I grabbed the rail and dove in and started just, like, throwing VHSs. Like, I literally dove into the bin like it was a ball pit at McDonald's. I dove in looking for it when I started finding out that they were in there. And to no avail, I didn't find it. But, like, that was how crazy it was. But back in, like, 2002, 2004 or whatever, like, trying to find Raids Again on home video was, like, the antithesis of, like, saying anyone asking me to buy Godzilla vs. Biollante off of me for my VHS collection. That's how bad it was. it was almost getting to that level where even, I think Godzilla 85 and both of its releases were like super rare. I remember I got 85 off of eBay on VHS for like $14 because it was just so hard to come by for some reason. And like looking at these, like when I say about only on one release, when you look at Gunhead, when you look at Destroy All Monsters though, when you look at Ghidorah, Mothra, Mechagodzilla 2, like the Heisei era, at least with ADV early on and Columbia TriStar during that late era of VHS into DVDs, at least those home video releases had a wide range through a real distributor. So I can see why, late 90s wasn't as hectic. And here's the funny part. I tried to add Gamera to this list, and the Gamera home video release before Guardian of the Universe is like abysmal. And when I mean abysmal, I mean they're from companies and like video retailers that like people don't even like remember. Like they seem like really mom and pop like video distributors. Cause I think Deke at one time had distribution rights to the Showa Gamera films.
I think that Deke actually picked up a lot of distribution rights for a lot of different things that were really random and kind of odd when you think about it.
Yeah, cause like that's the thing I can think of, like on just home video, like VHS release, when it came to Godzilla, like they were all over the place, but then in the later 90s it was a little bit cleaner, at least with some of the films, at least the Heisei ones were safe, with TriStar getting ready to produce and release Godzilla 98, so it makes a lot of sense. ADV was picking up whatever they could since they wanted Gamera, the Heisei films, they wanted Destroy All Monsters since everyone loved that film, and they grabbed a few other like Toho films as well as Tokyo Shock did to try to preserve them and move them onto DVD in the early years. So it worked out real nice. And Gamera though, it was like all over the place, I'll be honest with you. I had bad time researching it, but I guess moving aside from Kaiju, we gotta poke fun at the Power Ranger releases and the VR Troopers releases because I don't want to keep on rambling since you guys know nothing about the home video collecting like I had to go through, I guess.
Well,
I know a little bit about it, but
here's my general history with Godzilla home video collecting. I watched a lot of stuff on TV, and I saw, some movies here and there. But, I think I went to a Hastings once, and I bought, several Godzilla movies on DVD. I think it was GMK, Final Wars, several Millennium and Heisei movies, basically.
Yes, most of the ones that TriStar picked up to promote the, not just 98, but to promote the Millennium era, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a few of those, and then when 2014 Godzilla was coming around, suddenly everybody was putting everything on Blu-ray, and I was like, let's do this. And so I basically went through all that, but then I was just sitting there with a Son of Godzilla? Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla? Anybody? Anybody want to do these? No one wants to do it? Okay. And then Criterion came and saved the day.
Yeah, no, because here's the funny thing, because as a kid, on television, the few Godzilla movies that I rarely ever saw syndicated were Godzilla Raids Again, Son of Godzilla, and those were the only two that I never saw syndicated on TV. So when we got the first Classic Media and the TriStar ones, I hopped on the chance to get those immediately, because everything else was way, way too syndicated. I mean, between TNT, AMC, Sci-Fi Channel...
TMC, or TCM, I mean.
TCM didn't really get Godzilla movies until...
I remember watching them. They used to have them in the summer.
No, I'm saying they didn't get it till after, the big phase of, when the fad died down, and the ones that they did get were a lot of the Classic Media releases, though. That was the sad part. They only got, a few of the Classic releases.
Right, and that's kind of how I watched a lot of the earlier films. And that was just because, I didn't live in the States until 2000, so... Yeah,
that makes sense. But with Power Rangers, with the Saban era, when we had the regular, I guess you would say, Americana adaptations, that's some funny talks that, we've talked about, is that, it wasn't until, Dino Charge that we had complete seasons even out on VHS or Blu-ray. I mean, DVD.
Okay, so, you want me to run the history of Power Rangers? Because I got it on my memory.
I mean, I don't want the full one, just do, the depth of, how we did the TV movies of compilation.
I gotcha. Okay, so basically, there was a lot of VHS releases for Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin got, most of the episodes released just through various 2 to 3 episode volumes. Just a bunch of VHSs.
Don't forget the single volumes of just an episode.
Single volumes of an episode. There was, all kinds of stuff. There was VHS exclusive things like Alpha's Magical Christmas. But then, starting, I think, around In Space, I want to say, is when they started doing these TV movie kind of compilation films, which are something that I've always thought should get, a DVD release just for the sake of preservation of history, as well as just seeing the way they edited things. For example, the most famous one, the first Power Rangers VHS I ever watched was the Power Rangers in Space one that was just labeled Power Rangers in Space. It didn't actually have like a subtitle, but
No,
it
it
was
actually had the movie.
Did it say the movie? Okay, well, it said the movie, but basically, it was the Psycho Ranger arc. They cut out a few scenes here and there. They didn't use Carlos on call, but every other Psycho Ranger episode was on there, compiled into a quote-unquote movie. And it was like, as far as I can remember back, I saw that before I saw the Mighty Morphin movie or the Turbo movie, because again, wasn't in the States, didn't have Power Rangers broadcasting on TV in Iceland. So it kind of led me to having this thing of, well, I didn't really watch Power Rangers until Lost Galaxy when I came to the States in late 99. So In Space's Psycho Ranger movie was kind of like my start for Power Rangers. And it's really cool to think back. And then they did later ones for Lightspeed, Lost Galaxy, Time Force, Wild Force. They all got them before we hit the DVD era. The first Power Rangers DVD came out during Wild Force and was a compilation of the best of Power Rangers. And it came out shortly after Forever Red aired, while they were still hyping up the Power Rangers 10th anniversary at the time. And it came with a cool poster that I still have somewhere in my room. But that DVD was kind of the start of it. And that was like, oh, hey, here's a bunch of episodes that are very famous. It was a great way to celebrate the anniversary. From there, Disney took over the franchise, and for Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, SPD, Mystic Force, and yeah, for those, we would get the 3 to 5 episode volumes. And they would only ever complete about 60% of each show. They never had complete sets. For example, I remember Ninja Storm's DVDs ending even before they debuted the Hurricane Megazord. And it was, I think Samurai's Journey happened, and then like one other DVD after that for the next few episodes. That was it. Never had a complete season for any of those. The only one that actually got completed in Disney was Operation Overdrive, which for some reason they decided, oh, we're going to finish off Operation Overdrive and packed enough episodes per disc to get the whole thing put out. Jungle Fury and RPM only had 2 releases each, and then we got to the wonderful mess that is Lionsgate owning the franchise. Between RPM and Samurai, Shout Factory picked up the rights to everything Mighty Morphin to RPM, put them out in individual volumes, complete sets of several seasons for each kind of era, and then a complete 20-season set that actually included Samurai, Super Samurai, Megaforce as a limited edition set for their website. And then Lionsgate is a total giant disaster. The first complete season set to ever come out for Power Rangers in general was Super Samurai, which came out on DVD and Blu-ray, which they didn't do a complete Samurai set. And they were doing volumes, and Ninja Steel was finally the first time we got a Power Rangers season out on DVD from Lionsgate without it previously being split up into 4 to 5 volumes before that. And now we're seemingly just getting complete sets because Ninja Steel, Super Ninja Steel, everything was released into complete sets for Samurai through Dino Supercharge, but there are still 2 episodes missing from Dino Supercharge, being the Halloween and Christmas episodes, because for some reason Lionsgate re-released Dino Supercharge 4 times now and haven't put them in any of the releases.
Yeah, and that's the funny part, is that they've done very, I guess you'd say sporadic releases. I mean, even back then, there's like a really rare Zeo movie release, which was just the Zeo Beginnings. Like, it was literally like that. They did intend to release, like, say, a Gold Ranger compilation. They never did that. The first 2 episodes of Zeo were supposed to be out as the Zeo movie. I've heard that because people that I know said they actually did get it. But, like, it was only, like, if you lived on the West Coast, people found it. It didn't spread, you know, for some reason there was a bad distribution and bad release of that film. And then, when you talk about the other Saban shows, Beetleborgs had, like, 2 or 3 VHS releases, and that was it. They just had Curse of the Shadowborg, and I think the finale and the Metallics video. And VR Troopers had, like, 3 releases, and they were all just mostly Season 1. They didn't have any Season 2 home video releases, but with Power Rangers being obviously the strongest, that did come out. We have a very incoherent release track record for them. And I like the idea of compiling the bigger arcs back in the day, but I think Disney had the better mindset with the intention, you know? Because when you look back, Season 1 of MMPR to, like, Season 2 of MMPR was, let's just take random episodes and release them on VHS, where, like, some of the stuff you would actually get in chronological order. Like, I remember the original first Mighty Morphin boxes. Like, the first original MMPR VHSs were, like, either chronologically the first 5 episodes of the first season, or they were, like, at least spaced out 5 episodes within the first 10. Then we got Green with Evil, and then we got, like, a few other episodes from late Season 1, and then we got, like, a lot of Season 2. Like, they tried to, like, sort of space out the releases for MMPR, but they never really were official, and then they did, like you said, the ARC movies. Then Disney to now, they've been a little bit more consistent. Visible Ninja, what's your take on at least the Saban to Disney era Power Rangers, as well as just the other non-Power Ranger home video releases?
Oh boy, I remember having some of the earliest MMPR tapes back in the day, with the infamous Animorphs, kind of art, which is still kind of freaky when you look at it today. But yeah, I had some, and their idea of doing like the compilations, quote-unquote movies, was actually a good idea, like they did with the Psycho 5-parter. That was actually a pretty damn good idea. Other times, not so much. Like, I know, what was it, To the 10th Power was put out through, I think it was some kind of promotion through McDonald's, like, 6 months or...
That was Trakina's Revenge, actually.
Oh, Trakina's Revenge, sorry. I got mixed up. Different Lost Galaxy crossover. Apologies, but that kind of stuff does make sense. And then Disney era, like Soundout said, was kind of weird because you couldn't get the whole season on DVD up until, bizarrely enough, Operation Overdrive. And I still find it funny that that's the season where they decided to finally start putting all the stuff onto one set of Blu-rays, which is...
It's funny because Jungle Fury dropped the ball and did 3 episodes per volume. Same with RPM.
I know, which is, like, it's all the weirder that it's RPM. Or not RPM. Why did I just say RPM like that?
Overdrive.
That it's Overdrive of all series. Like, one of the most
I'm guessing
maligned...
just because it was an anniversary season.
Probably that, but, like, it's... like one of the most maligned, least liked seasons, ranked down there with Turbo by most people, but I just find it hysterical. And then, obviously, the stuff with Shout Factory is amazing. You can get, from MMPR all the way up to RPM in any number of ways, either as an individual season set, as part of these, larger, like, blocks of sets that include, like, 4 or 5 other seasons. Or if you were completely baller, you could have bought the Mega Awesome Giant Head, of which I know Soundout has.
I have it, and it's wonderful, and I love it.
And I love that it's available all these different ways, and now they're even crapping out the MMPR seasons on Steelbooks for seemingly no reason, but they are.
I just want to see something happen where it's a crazy idea, I know this, but could Beast Morphers come out from a different company besides Lionsgate because it's a new ownership? Because, good Lord, please. And while we're at it, whatever new company, can you re-release Dino Supercharged with every episode this time? And on Blu-ray for all of these seasons that are in HD that don't need any conversion to be on Blu-ray?
That'd be nice. And speaking of, Lionsgate, they're weird because... like, at first, they seem to be pulling, like, what Disney was with the individual volumes. But in this case, they did make up, like, a whole season at least. But then, like, they were later packaged together as a complete season. And then later incorporated with their super counterpart as part of a larger set. And then eventually as part of an even larger set. It's kind of confusing, because... like, I know quite a few people, were buying the volumes as they were coming out, then all of a sudden, oh, here's the complete season set. You kind of wasted your time when you could have just waited for the season set. Oh, shit, now here's a set with both original and super in it. Damn. Oh,
you know
well,
what's the biggest insult with those?
What?
And I just gotta say it. The biggest insult was every volume was about $10 to $12. The complete season sets were $15. That was the biggest insult with those. Not just that they re-released it instantly in a complete set, it's that it was like a fifth of the cost.
I know. And not to mention, like I said, then they got bundled together, then they bundled, like what was it, like Samurai and Megaforce together in, like, a 4, set thing. Then there's the shit with Dino Charge, like Soundout was talking about earlier. And God knows what's going to happen with Beast Morphers now. So, like I said, hopefully it does go to, because I don't think we've heard anything different. So, as far as we know, it's still with Lionsgate. But, dear Lord. Oh.
Yeah, no, I want to throw that in, too, is, like, it makes sense that at least with Lionsgate, they've tried to make amends. I think the only problem is that they did that whole, we're gonna put, volumes on volumes and then re-release the volumes in a complete set. It's even less than what you paid for. So, I mean, that's one of those weird things where they kind of did F the consumer. but at the same time, at least they did give you most of everything you technically needed or required for the show, even though they did leave out, like I said, some specials in later releases. I think with Power Rangers, though, they at least got an idea with Disney and at least moved forward with it, unlike, like we said in the VHS era, where it was kind of just all over the place and obviously unapparent. I mean, at that time, too, like we said, with Godzilla, rights were still all over the place. Gamera actually was a lot more smoother because the Diamond Entertainment was just bought out by Mill Creek, so Mill Creek just repurposed those films eventually. They even got the rights to both audios. They then acquired the defunct 80V release of the Guardian of the Universe series. There are other Toho films, though, that are still floating around, like Space Amoeba, Matango, Varan, and I think you also have Mysterians. Like, those movies are still back now out, possibly in public domain or all over the place. Who knows, maybe Mill Creek's gonna get them, because they got Mothra. I don't really know. I mean, I just want to see a new updated release of Matango. I would love to see an updated release of the Mysterian. I would love to see an updated release of Varan. Other than that, though, like I said, with those movies being out in the wild, we have the really, really, really weird Toei Amamiya films that have been thrown all over the place, like Amamiya's Cyber Ninja movie, his Zayram duology. They've been thrown up on home video release. His production for Toei for Hokkaider was released through like Tokyo Shock, Media Blasters, other distribution companies. We also had Kamen Rider the First, and that was just like a precursor to us eventually getting, obviously Just Beyond from Discotek as well as Sentai from Shout Factory. So I mean, when you think about it, those are really all over the place.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not forget the Generation Kikaider releases. While limited in their release because they are produced by a very small company in Hawaii that's mostly a translation company that did it out of passion, Kikaider Zero-One, Inazuman, and Kamen Rider V3, as well as the recent Kikaider reboot film, have all gotten official releases. They are more expensive and they are harder to come by, but they have gotten them and they were given a lot of love and care.
The only reason I'm not omitting them or really forgetting about them, the problem I have is really that their distribution is only a special legality of a limited release for Hawaii, where they can still technically sell it online. They just can't sell a lot of it massively online in general. It's like, okay, you're only getting it for this area and whatnot, and you only get to do so many reprints and so many copies. So it's like one of those ones, unlike, where we had, the random Tokyo Shock Media Blasters, this did get to see at least storefronts in, say, like your FYEs or Best Buys across America, across Canada. So it was like, you have a chance to find it in your local store, maybe. That's the thing that's the sad part about those really great releases from Generation Kikaider, is that you either have to go to Hawaii or have the money to buy those releases, which is really sad.
Yeah, because they can only be sold within Hawaii. They can be shipped other places, but they have to be sold in Hawaii. Which is why if you find them on Amazon, they'll typically be sold by Generation Kikaider's own store on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, that's the thing that is kind of the unfortunate shame, because, like, when you look at it, Sentai does get the better rap. Ultraman gets a better rap. Kaiju gets a better rap. I think that's because it just has actual, real, universal reach and image for our community, not just because of Power Rangers adapting and being the most successful adaptation, but because they have that legality of the concept and characters usually remain loosely the same, even if it's a different theme or hero or character under the guise or it's a new theme of a show. The fact is, Rider, as you can see, apparently, as we addressed during the Zero-One discussion at the beginning of the episode, to sort of start bringing this episode and discussion to a close, is that Rider, as well as even Metal Hero sometimes, are just too experimental. What the theme doesn't match the series it actually is regulated to. So, like, when you say you take the three initial Space Sheriffs, Just Beyond and actually Spielbahn, look similar to them. But then you move forward, and then you have the Rescue Trilogy, who sort of look similar, but don't look similar to them. And then
they
you have
don't look like they're part of the same franchise.
Yeah, like, they have similarities, but they don't have that full, average, casual similarity. So it's going to be a hassle. Like, I mean, just look at what we had to deal with in the past, just for Kaiju alone. It's all over the place. Power Rangers, it was all over the place, and it was by the actual company and distributor owning the license. And now, for some reason, you have anime studios, you have anime distributors who are actually going, let's really think this out. Like, a Sound Out approached Nozomi Entertainment. They're working hand in hand. Tsuburaya is now working hand in hand. And the funny thing that I want to also point out is, while we are saying, hey, be happy for what you're getting and be proud of who's putting out the effort, there is also that thing that we have to say of, okay, we get it that this is only for North America, And there's always going to be that issue of entitlement and privilege, because I've been seeing quite a lot of our friends in Europe getting really, like, angsty. They're like, oh, you guys still bitch and moan that you don't get this, but we don't get anything. We don't get effing anything. And I'm like, I get you guys don't get effing anything. That's because in Europe, you're all, like, 7 different countries. So, of course, you're gonna be, like, effed over by your European Union kind of thing because no one wants to agree with each other. It's like a big business venture of no one wants to actually do it because they're like, well, if France gets it, we're just gonna dub it in France, or all the subtitles will be in France. We're not gonna release it in English for you people over there in England. We're not gonna do this for the Italians. So I think that's really the problem, is that with Europe, there's just too many countries over there that don't speak one unified language, that it does hurt our friends overseas, across the Atlantic. So, it's one of those things of, yeah, Region 1 is getting very lucky now with Tokusatsu. Region 2, though, the best I can say is, if you really do love Tokusatsu, take possibly the interest of course, like how in America, they give us the choice of, do you want to learn French or do you want to learn Spanish? Take up the option. You got also Latin America fan subbing it, and you got, America English fan subbing it. Get those fan subs. Actually torrent if you have to. If you can't get the official release before they're gone due to the fact of official releases coming in America. We're not saying that the fan sub will die. We're just saying that it will become more of a limited time offer.
Don't get mad at fan subgroups if they stop having something available for download because it's licensed in their country. They're trying to avoid a legal dispute and getting in major trouble. So, it's not available worldwide, but within the country that group is established in, it's available. So they're going to make sure they take the steps to keep themselves safe. Because if any fan subber gets arrested or in legal trouble, they can take the whole thing down, and then we can't get anything aside from what's officially given to us.
And here's the other part. Who says these fans are going to want to pay their legal fees to help bust them out? You're not going to really pay. You just want to download, you just want to stream. That's being slightly selfish, and that's the problem, is that, like, it's a community of, you got to give and take. It's cooperation. So, at this point, like I said, us in Region 1, we're pretty good. We're pretty happy with what we got. And it's going to be bad for our European friends, whether you're in England, whether you're in France, Germany, Italy, it's going to be a lot rougher on you guys. And even with the importing, it's also a pain. So I think the thing is if you're really wanting to get into Tokusatsu and you haven't now, acquire as many as the fan subs that are out for the currently airing shows that aren't immediately on the, I guess you would say, chopping block of distribution. Get them, preserve them for now, and find out what ones are coming next and grab those if they are available. If they're not, you might have to wait for some time. And who knows, maybe you guys have to start looking for each other in the communities of people who speak your native language to help make your own homemade fan subs.
Communication and community is very important for a fandom to be able to grow, expand, and be able to help all each other. Just being selfish and thinking about only yourself is going to lead to a community where nothing ever happens and you'll never get anything cool out of the community experience of being part of a fandom.
Wait, when did this become Masters of the Universe?
Don't be a dick.
Exactly, when did this become He-Man?
Because I held aloft my magic sword and said the words, I have the power! And that's how that happened.
He-Man.
Alright, and with that, let's bring this episode to a close. Alright, so anyways, this episode went longer than we expected, but actually it fills in that gap of us being gone for almost 2 months anyways. I am your host, Wheelchair21, and I was joined by Sound.12 Invisible Ninja.
I'm not actually here, I died last week.
Our contact information obviously is in the description below. And for Hero Club itself, you can always check out how to follow us in the outro and likewise in the description. We'll see you all next week with episode 90, where yours truly and Sound Out, as well as hopefully Janitor Joker and maybe even Visible Ninja, will be all here to discuss the actual series that concluded earlier this year, Lupinranger vs. Patranger. We're finally going to do the full series evaluation review of it, which hopefully doesn't get too out of hand like our Kamen Rider build discussion. Anyways, we'll see you then with episode 90.
Hey, it's Wheelchair21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.